following podcast is going to have some naughty language you're not going to want your kids to listen to.
And we're going to spoil the shit out of stuff, so be prepared.
This episode this week, we're talking about Season 2, Episode 1. Monster. For Fear the Walking Dead, which just premiered this week. And initially, Julie, thoughts? Tell me what you thought.
I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it started off running. They hit the ground and they went. And then
they really hit the water. More than they hit the ground, let's be honest.
And, it kind of calmed down a little bit as we got to learn a little bit more about the characters. And then next thing you know, it's getting crazy again. So I thought it was a really good first episode for the season.
I agree. I think one of the things that they always try to do in the main series of Walking Dead as well as this is you've really got to have that thing at the beginning that really kind of pulls you in, before they go to the title sequence. We know how it rolls. But that first scene was just so, you felt that confusion, they're on the beach. There's this, you couldn't tell, like, are things on fire? Then you realize, oh my God, like there's bombs going off or there's some kind of artillery shells. And so the start was really, the stakes were really high right off the bat. Then, they're out on the boat and things, like you said, they sort of calm down a little bit. And we're getting a little bit more of the personal interrelationships with people. And then sets up some interesting stuff for the next episode.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good season if they keep going with what we just saw for that first episode.
I agree.
But let's talk about that first scene, them on that beach there. I agree with you that you could feel their confusion of what's going on. I remember watching it and I was like, is something on fire? What's going on? Because you're focused on them, but you see, these walkers are coming at you and you see this fire everywhere. And
they're on a beach. So I was like, what? When did they get to a beach? Like, I know he lives on the coast, but I don't know. It was confusing.
Well, they did close the scene, episode 6 last season, after Travis shot Liza. Yep. He did go and fall into the water and cry, and Maddie was there. So it seems like they picked up just a couple of hours after that happened.
And the producer, who I can't remember his name, David, who was on the Talking Dead afterwards.
I can't remember either.
Oh, God. If it's not Kirkman or Gimple, we don't know who it is. Or Greg Nicotero.
Yeah.
Anyway, I believe his name was David, so our apologies. But the producer for Fear said that he did confirm that this episode really picks up just a few hours.
Just a couple hours.
And I would assume since it was daytime when Travis, collapsed on the beach there, I would assume then that the next, a couple hours later, sun's down, they've decided to, amscray and then leave terra firma, if you will.
Yeah. So not only do we have bombs going off, but then we have a motor to the face.
Yeah, zombies in the water. Not a fan.
Zombies in the water. Yeah. Use whatever you can. But honestly, though, that's probably one of the biggest, most, what's the word I'm looking for? It was
epic zombie death.
So far in this series, right? For Fear, because we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, like when you rank those the stereotypical epic zombie deaths that happen, like Daryl with the fingers in the eye sockets and stuff like that, using the skull. I mean, come on, epic. They really hadn't had one of those yet because they were still sort of learning how to deal with. I would say though, in the first season when Maddie had to, beat the shit out of the principal,
with the fire extinguisher.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. They're learning to use whatever they have around them.
Right. And again, of course, the frustration for people who know better, sitting off in the wings watching the episode, thinking to themselves, oh my God, I hate to invoke the name of the podcast, but oh my God, just aim for the head. Use a knife or something. Like you can punch them all you want, but they're just going to come back.
And I don't think a rock's going to do too much damage on a fresh walker.
Right. I'm wondering too, at that point, have they even had the discussion yet about, shots to the head? The brain shot being the thing that's going to take them out.
Well, the person who knew the most about them was Liza, and she's gone.
Yeah.
But she knew that because of being in that infirmary, she knew that they had to, trauma to the head was what put them down. Nothing else works. So I don't know if Liza ever got the chance to actually
It's too late now, man, because Liza got her own shot to the head.
Yep.
And that was another thing that sort of, created some tension as well. I mean, here's this, this bomb's going off. There's dead in the water, and they literally are bringing their own dead along with them.
Yep.
They've decided to take Liza with them. We weren't there for that conversation that happened off scene, but, you've got to assume that Chris, her son, just could not handle the idea of leaving her behind, and there must have been some scene that we haven't seen yet, or, just assumed in our head that there was some argument, no, we're taking her with us. We're taking her with us.
I mean, think of one of the most recent episodes of The Walking Dead. They didn't leave Denise behind. They went back for her.
That's
and they
true.
buried her.
And I
think that's just human nature. You can't leave your loved ones behind.
Right. And it's funny how I made a note while I was watching about this was really their first, without meaning to say epic, but it's more their first personal death. Much like, and I had to think back in Walking Dead, what was the first personal death that you as the watcher, the audience member, experienced? And I think it was Amy, Andrea's sister.
Yeah.
I think that was the first the first one where you see the levels of grief and you understand.
Yeah.
You understood what she meant. So
Good call.
Kind of transposing that onto the fear episode with Chris and his reaction, you're right there with him. You totally understand. It's the first time that they've had to do a mercy kill, that they've and then that they've had to lose someone as close to them as she was. So yeah. So they wrapped up Liza, took her along.
They get onto that boat, and it kind of calms down a little bit.
Yeah.
The episode slows down a little. We get to see how things are going to start to play out between, a handful of people that don't really know each other very well yet.
And isn't that a sign for things to come? How it is in Walking Dead as well as here, is that you become real strange bedfellows when you're trying to save yourself. I don't really know you very well, and it doesn't really become clear until we've got this moment where we can stop and breathe, and you're like, what's your name again?
Yeah. So let's see. The first conflict that these, people have with each other is, do we take these survivors in a boat that's passing by, or do we not?
Oh my God.
What a hard choice in general to have to make.
Yeah, just terrible. I mean, it's one that probably every group of survivors at some point has to come to that, do we take these people along or not? Just
and the survivors themselves are pretty divided. We got Maddie and Alicia and Nick, who think that they probably should have grabbed them, and Travis, who surprisingly is on Strand's side, which was an interesting flip. But I think that moment of when he had to put, mercy kill Liza is that flipping moment for Travis, where he kind of realizes the gravity of his situation. Because last episode he was the mayor, the nice guy, he wants to help everybody, and now he puts his foot down and doesn't want to rescue other survivors.
Yeah, I would definitely say the Travis flip was surprising, but when you dig into it, it makes sense.
Understandable.
Oh yeah, having to do what he just did, presumably just a few hours earlier,
right.
Killing Liza, putting her down, if you will, and having the fallout of his son being right there, and knowing now that his son is literally his only blood relative left that he knows of, puts him into that state of, we've seen this before on other episodes with the other series, is, do you have any family left? I think so. So, presumably he's got parents and family and whatever somewhere. But
maybe.
Chris is the only one, and he's right there, extremely protective. And what I might have said yes to 3 days ago, yes, we need to take these survivors. Now it's absolutely not.
Well, and it's bringing up a nice similarity with Rick, too.
True.
From The Walking Dead. Rick, he started such a good guy and wanting to help others. And I think it actually took Rick a little bit longer to realize, I can't trust people. And he came up with his 3 questions. And, so Travis did a pretty quick flip on trusting, maybe not so much as trusting people, but protecting his son.
Yeah.
Definitely became number one priority to him.
Definitely. So, moving on. Let's see. Then we have a little wrinkle there where Strand asked Alicia about checking out the radio.
Yeah. Alicia gets on the radio. She, is flipping through. We find out that the Coast Guard's gone.
Oh, God, it was so awful.
They can't help anybody by sea or by land. So that had to be, but I think Alicia was the only person around to hear that.
Yeah.
So really, did she keep that to herself? Did she tell anybody that there's no more Coast Guard, that they're just kind of on their own?
Because one would assume, Strand's whole reason for going towards San Diego is Camp Pendleton's down there. It's a Marine barracks, sorry. So if
hopefully
that's his
it's
reasoning,
safe, or if they haven't been touched yet. I think these people are a little, they're confused. How far has this spread? Was it just LA, or has it gotten to San Diego yet? I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening, but.
Yeah, no kidding. But it's interesting to know that Strand's purpose, we're going towards the Marines and they're near San Diego. And, Alicia hearing, the Coast Guard isn't working anymore. So I don't know how, I know the Marines are tougher, but still, I'm not sure, And
then she starts to hear some music on the radio, and a gentleman who we later find out's name Jack. Mm-hmm. Just reminds me of the Titanic. They're on a yacht in the middle of the ocean.
Someone say Captain Jack in another,
Captain Jack
description.
Nice.
I was like, I don't know if this is Jack or Captain Jack. And I'm like, oh, God, great.
And she starts a conversation with him. And at first it seems pretty innocent. They're just kind of chatting back and forth about how their situation really sucks. Yeah. I think she's starting to realize that it's more than just LA. I don't think they really find out, or she really finds out where Jack's from, but he doesn't seem like he's very close to her, and he's in a similar situation, has lost everybody except for his brother and sister-in-law.
Yeah.
So that gets a little interesting there. Alicia is not being smart with her use of that radio, I don't think.
Yeah, and it's funny how it was both things. There's some things that I felt were not smart, but then when he was like, oh, I really shouldn't say where we are, and she says, I understand, and, that makes sense, she felt a little more guarded. But then, the other details where she was like, he's like, oh, we're running out of water. And she's like, oh, we've got a desalinization thing on our boat.
Oh, you guys must be rich.
And she's like, oh, I'm not rich, but this guy, she literally within a sentence revealed, I'm not rich. I randomly am on some rich guy's yacht. We've got a desalinization machine, so we can have all the fresh water we want. Yay! And he's filing this information away, and one would hope it's for good purposes, but, we know better. At least, history says.
And then we have one of the other kids kind of on an opposite spectrum. We've got Chris completely mourning the loss of his mother.
Right.
Doesn't want to come out of his room. And they have that little makeshift funeral, and gets kind of violent.
Yeah.
Understandably.
For sure. You totally understand his emotions.
Yeah, it was a little shocking to see it, though.
Yeah.
And then the conversation between Daniel and Travis, I really, really liked that scene, how Daniel said that he would trade the mercy that he gave Liza for the failure that he ended up having with his wife. I thought that was a really interesting scene to kind of put some things into perspective, not only for the viewer, but for Travis as well.
Almost like telling Travis that as terrible as this situation is, hang on to the fact, and maybe even impart on your son the fact that you guys were actually given a gift by being able to know that she died in a what's the word I'm looking for?
She knew it was coming, and, they got to say goodbye, and it wasn't as, I guess, scary.
It was more humane. It was a much more humane way to go, and then whereas he just didn't have that with his wife. Right. He wasn't able to be there. He wasn't able to
And we saw she was obviously scared and
she was in pain too. She was in lots of pain, as were a lot of the people that were in that clinic that Liza was at. So that really was a great scene. It's funny how Daniel, as untrusting as he is of pretty much everybody except his daughter, it's funny how he is sort of the sage older person that people go to and they're like, I need a little advice, and what do you think, and what are your thoughts on these things, and he's
going to be a less trusting version of Herschel.
Right. Right.
They always went to Herschel for some
this is true.
thoughts of wisdom. And
such a stereotype. Who are we going to talk to? I really can't understand what I'm going to do in this moment. Let me talk to the dude that's got about 20, 30 years on me and see what he thinks, because he has.
And he's obviously seen some shit.
Well, at least in this case, Daniel's got a little bit. He explained in season 1 about being involved in some type of, rebel uprising.
Yeah, war.
Yep. South America, I think he said, right? We'll get back to you on that. But it definitely sounded like, he's in some kind of crazy situation because he saw a lot of this coming. So I can sort of see how he falls into that.
And Maddie asks him too, like, what next?
Yeah.
And he's like, why do you think I would know what's next?
She's like, you knew what was going to happen before,
you've known
right?
everything else.
Yeah. And he made a really great comment, and I wrote it down. He said that if this is the end of the world, it's already over, which I thought was really great, considering this is just the beginning. Technically, in the timeline of the Walking Dead universe, this is that backstory, that sort of prequel, the beginning of the story, and we know that they've still got a few years before things really get off the rails.
Because at this moment, Rick is probably still in a coma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we don't, we weren't there to watch how it fell in Georgia. We got a little bit of flashbacks and stuff, but we didn't get to see this. Yeah. Which is why it's nice.
And we were talking today, too, about the whole, we do know that Georgia was bombed the same way that, whether they used napalm or, some type of artillery, we couldn't really tell. But, we know from that flashback on Walking Dead that Atlanta was bombed and in much the same way LA was. Not sure if it was timeline the same time.
Did they happen at the same time? Was it a few days before or after?
And that bombing on the Walking Dead happened not long after they had abandoned Rick at the hospital, because it was just Shane and Laurie and,
they were
their
just,
first, together. Anyway, not wanting to get onto the topic of terrible relationship decisions in the apocalypse. So another interesting thing that happened during the episode was Maddie sort of coming upon Strand.
Talking to himself.
Yeah, talking to himself, and then the sort of phantom music playing.
That she was hearing.
Yeah, and, we were talking about it as well. Is he, there can't be any cell phone service, we were saying, so...
Right.
Does he have like a walkie-talkie and he's, who
radio
knows?
Of some sort, or was he really truly talking to himself? Is this man actually kind of crazy?
Right.
Is he losing his mind? They have mentioned a couple of times, have you seen Strand sleep yet?
Right.
Is he just kind of losing it a little bit? Has he already lost it?
And, he grain of salt for the fact that he's tired, but note to the general public, if you want to not make it seem like you're doing something shady, when someone hears music, to explain it away, you could just simply say, oh, I was tired and listening to opera music. But saying, oh, sounds are different on the ocean is immediately going to make me think that you're up to no good. And talking to someone, oh, no, I talk to myself to keep myself awake. I do that all the time.
Not suspicious at all.
Not at all suspicious. So, 2 strikes to you, Strand, because those are pretty suspicious. So.
Well, and Daniel's not trusting of him at all.
Yeah.
He's really...
We did already cover that Daniel doesn't trust anyone except his daughter.
This is true. But
he's pretty hard line.
I think he's trusting of Travis and Maddie now, and I think he still has his caution with Nick. But he definitely does not trust Strand.
Yeah, and more in the sense of, I think that the distrust that some of the others have of Strand is more out of not knowing, like, oh, there's something weird there. Whereas I feels like Daniel's distrust comes from a place of, this guy is up to no good. Right. I can't put my finger on it, but, bing, 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 these things add up to who the hell are you? What are you doing?
Rule number 1, it's my boat. Yeah. Rule number 2, it's my boat.
Yeah, a fight club on the ocean. It's just what we need.
That's what it reminded me of, too.
Ooh,
and rule number 3, in case you've forgotten, it's my damn boat.
It's his boat. In case you weren't listening, it's Strand's boat. And is the Jack that Alicia's talking to, is that just like Fight Club? I am Jack's discontent, Sorry, just,
Too many.
Tangents. Anyway. All right. So we discover Daniel is not trusting of Strand as well. Then...
They go to have a nice eel dinner, right?
I mean, I love how it's like that silent, we've got a little music playing in the background, like that compilation of,
you can't hear them talking, but they look like they're having a okay time.
We're bonding over this really disgusting looking eel that Salazar, Daniel has gotten for us, and isn't this a lovely family meal around a fish we would probably never touch ever, 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 except if it was a zombie apocalypse.
And then Chris walks away and jumps into the water.
Yeah.
Which freaks everybody out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me as well. It was, that moment where Travis for a second was like, this is, he's not coming to eat, but at least he's upstairs. And, at least we shared a little bit of eye contact and...
Right.
Yeah, and then he walks away, and then all of a sudden, splash, and you're like, shit.
What's it say, though, that Nick is the first person to jump in after him?
Yeah, I think Nick also said in that first season that he's ready for this because he's already come so close to death so many times. He's already flirted with death so many times.
Right.
That he sort of takes everything... he takes it in stride, all of these crazy things that have been going on. To him,
and that thing that he said to Maddie at the end, like, I feel like I've been living my own apocalypse and everybody's just now catching up to me.
Him. Yeah.
Which was a great quote from him.
Yeah. That's definitely highlights a lot of who Nick is and what his place is with this group of people. He's that hardened, not necessarily hardened, I take that back. He's more of the experienced... end of the world person, I suppose. Although, strangely, I mean, his first reaction, I mean, those trailers when they were getting ready to do the season 1 of him just running out of the church was just, that terror on his face, Good
actor.
But admittedly, he's definitely seen some more than a lot of the other people that are there have seen as well.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch him grow throughout this season. Because,
and I did say to Julie before we even started this season, I said, I'd like to pose the question, will Nick change his clothes at any point? Or are we going to have to look at that members only jacket that he stole off a homeless person?
Watching the episode, and he's got just a plain white tee on, and I wanted to text you and be like, Dianna, look, he took the jacket off. And then halfway through the episode, he's got the damn jacket back on.
I know. It's just, it's literally, it's going to torture us.
Well, I don't think they got to pack anything. I think it's all he has.
Yeah. I mean, they did have bags, though, but I don't know. I don't think he has anything because he didn't seem like he lived with his family. Anyway, tangent. No. Bad tangent. Okay, anyway, so Chris jumps in the water. Nick jumps in after him.
And then there's this beautiful water scene where...
Wasn't that so beautifully shot?
I love how it's like we freak out, right? Nick jumps into the water after Chris, and it's like you're scared, you don't know what's about to happen, and then it gets kind of playful for a minute. They're floating around. I just wanted to swim, and so Nick goes under, and he's just kind of floating around, and he looks up, and there's this beautiful shot of the walker floating above him, and Nick below, and this sun flare from above, and then that.
But we don't know it's a walker. That's the thing that's crazy.
We're not sure of it at first, or at least Nick doesn't know. I'm sitting here like it's a walker, it's a walker, it's a walker. And then terror again, and I felt like I had a little case of whiplash watching that part because I'm like scared. Oh no, everything's gonna be okay. Oh shit, what's happening?
Yeah. See, I didn't peg it as a walker right off the bat because there were walkers on the water, but they were so far out at this point. It didn't run into my head. So as soon as he's floating above, I was like, Chris is floating above him. He's a little bigger than he used to be. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, it's like, get out of there! you know.
I love you. We were talking earlier, and you mentioned something about how movies and society has, when you're watching a show or you're watching a movie, whenever there's water, you kind of automatically get this tense feeling.
Yeah. I mean, for years, horror movies have sort of conditioned you to think terror in any kind of open water.
Right.
So I was saying to Julie earlier today that when I was bringing that up, I mean, I can swim. I'm a really good swimmer. And when I see scenes like that, I still feel fear, even if they haven't told me I'm supposed to be afraid yet, because I know, like, there's just this fear in the open water, like anything can happen. And, and especially if you can't touch the bottom. If you can't touch the bottom, then you've got some problems. But just isn't that interesting how, they didn't even show anything at first, and then there's this underlying current of fear, and it's not even really something that they set. It's really your preconceived notions of
water,
horror in the water,
right,
which is just crazy.
Well, and then they have this little, like, smoky, foggy cloud, and you see this shot up yacht.
Yeah.
It's capsized and just looks really, what the hell's going on?
Yeah,
and
pretty,
walkers with life jackets on, floating, and
just what they need. They can't sink. We got to have them in life jackets. Great.
Well, and then Nick makes the decision to swim in, and I guess so.
Yeah, superhuman hearing boy hears some kind of banging in there.
So they said that on The Talking Dead, and I read a couple of reviews earlier of people saying that there was a noise that Nick heard. I didn't hear a noise. Did you hear a noise?
Not when he was above water. Not when they were first spied, like the overturned hull and stuff like that. Like, obviously, when they showed him underneath, yes, he was there. You could hear there was some kind of banging. So it'd be interesting to see if that's,
So it was a banging then that we think that he heard that made him go under to see if someone was drowning, that he could save somebody.
And that was an interesting scene too. Even though I can swim really well, I have a recurring nightmare of drowning. I'm sure there are others who have the same. But coming up underneath, and you've only got like that 2 feet of space under the overturned boat kind of thing. That's really scary. Just that's a tense situation.
Tight space.
And then there's, of course, I guess at this point we can't really call them walkers. Are they floaties? Comes over to him. I mean, it's not. I mean, I felt weird writing down walkers. I mean, they're not walking; they're swimming. And that's what
they're not even swimming.
I literally wrote down in my notebook for my notes for the episode. I put, "God damn it, swimming zombies, never sleeping again." So obviously, they did a good job with adding in a little element of fear, because I mean, what do the walkers do? Their natural impulse is to just do this. They're like, doing, I'm sorry,
flopping
it's
around.
radio. I'm doing emotion and I'm not describing it. They're literally flopping, like reaching toward people, and if they just did that over and over again, you're dog paddling. So, I mean, I guess.
Especially with the floaty on.
Yeah. If you get the life jacket on, you're all set, whether you're a zombie or not. So, yeah. So
and then Nick retrieves that log.
Yeah, which will be interesting to see, because we don't know. I mean, obviously, gunshot holes obviously mean there was some type of attack, whether it was, we don't know yet if it was within or if it was somebody came upon them and shot up the boat. It's hard to tell right now.
And then Alicia gives their position away pretty much.
Yeah, what a doofus.
And then apologizes that she can't come and get them, and he says, I got you.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you soon.
We'll be seeing you soon.
Great.
I could feel her stomach just like
She's
drop.
like, oh, great, I totally screwed up here. But I mean,
Well, then there's this, you got Jack, in air quotes, Jack, coming to see her soon. You got a yacht that's completely shot up, and then Strand sees an incoming ship.
Yeah, and that's how the episode kind of wraps up, was this whole...
And Strand didn't hold back at all on her. Like, he really kind of made her feel like an ass.
Yeah, what the hell you're doing? And so we've got this impending doom of some sort of watercraft out there is coming really fast, a little bit faster, according to the math he said out loud, a little bit faster than they can probably do.
Right.
So at some point it's going to get closer and closer, and they don't It's a question mark. They don't know what it is.
And do they bother running and potentially strand themselves out there? Do they stay and see what the hell's going on? Like, what decision are they going to make? Are they going to try to get away from it? Is it Jack? Or is it pirates?
Yeah.
Or is it zombie pirates?
Are they zombie pirates with life preservers on? We don't know. So that's this week's episode of Fear, sort of a recap of everything they covered. I would say, what kind of questions do you have coming out of this episode? What's something you wrote down that really, and we may not answer these questions now. We may answer them next week, or they may never get answered.
Well, my main question after walking out of that episode is, does Strand have some other motive? Is he getting information from somewhere else? And they mentioned this on, I think, The Talking Dead also, that he was packed before, he was ready to go. Yeah. Did he know the bombs were coming? Like, did he have some intel from somewhere? Yeah. So that's my main question right now, is kind of around Strand. Yeah. That, and was he really talking to himself, or was he talking to somebody else? Yeah. And then, do you think Jack is the guy who shot up that yacht? You think he's a bad guy, or do you think he's really just going to be some innocent guy? I was reading a review earlier, and it's like, you can't blame Alicia too much. Jack did sound pretty dreamy.
And I put down, too, regarding Jack and questions about that is, if you think of what he said, he either said, I'll be seeing you soon, or we'll be seeing you soon.
I think he said, I'll see you soon.
That could have, think about it. Take away all of your fears that you've gotten from these two shows. Could he have just been saying, I'll be seeing you soon, based on, hey, when we're dead and we go to heaven, I'll be seeing you soon, could it be that? I made a point and wrote down, is he really dangerous? Or just like Rick is, are we, the audience, now suspicious of everything, suspicious of everybody's motives, everybody's intentions, helps you sort of see Rick's point of view.
Sure,
in a lot of the
but
Walking
Jack
Dead
did
episodes.
Seem a little ominous.
Yeah, that line was pretty,
it's kind of threatening a little bit.
Yeah. And he did sort of follow all of the typical, to catch a, predator sort of protocol, bring them in, play them a really pretty song, hat tip to the David Bowie tune, and, play them a nice song and get them talking about themselves, and, and next thing you know, he's saying, "Oh, where do you live? send me pictures of yourself, Alicia." So who knows? I also put down a question too about, finding out what happened to the yacht. And I'm really interested to see what that logbook reveals. Yeah. Are they, just regular people, and something happened to them internally? Did they fight within themselves? That would be really interesting, considering, here we've got this group of people who don't know each other and don't really trust each other. Could that lead to, this is what could happen, if we don't get along, right. Are we going to all shoot each other? I also put, and this is interesting, maybe this is just how I viewed it, but I was really struck in that moment where Nick is underneath the overturned yacht in the final scenes there, in that floaty, when the floaty comes floater towards him, and he's fighting with the zombie at first, and then for some reason, the zombie kind of disengaged and floated away.
I think it's because Travis said something.
Because
I think Travis yelled for Nick, and that sound kind of
distracted him enough.
Yeah, I think so. But there was this kind of look of humanity, like they were saying in The Talking Dead, like this.
Yeah, because they haven't been. they're making a point of showing that these are, I guess, fresh.
Yeah.
These zombies are all going to be fresh because they haven't.
They just turned.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whereas on The Walking Dead, we've been dealing with kind of like 2 and 3 year olds.
Yeah. I've been roaming the forest for 2 years with my guts hanging out.
Right.
Whereas this guy's just been floating for, I would think, just a few
hours. Right.
So to me, it just felt like, I mean, he was distracted. I do remember Travis making a noise or a sound or yelling or something, but
it was
when
weird.
He did disengage from Nick, he just sort of floated away, and I was very it was just interesting. It was a very different kind of zombie reaction. So I don't know if we'll ever get an answer to that question, but it was just an interesting take on it.
I agree.
So those are our questions. I guess usually around this time we would start talking about what the next episode, what we saw. For the episode itself, we didn't get that, but The Talking Dead did have.
Yeah, Talking Dead did have a little clip for us for the next episode. We got to see them outside somebody's house, kind of calling them to let them in. So obviously they've made it to land somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know how or why or when, and it's dark, and this house, I don't know how they know there's people in it. Everything was dark, but they're just kind of talking to these people inside this house.
And Travis really thinks that by standing in the middle of the street in the zombie apocalypse and yelling for help, that these people are going to unlock the door. Nice. You must be new to the zombie apocalypse, sir. I hate to tell you. So that's just a little peek of what's going to happen in the next episode. That's it. That's our info for this episode. Just a reminder, we have our Facebook page.
Yep. Aim for the Head. If you search that on Facebook, you can find us there. And if you have some of your own questions, send them to us. We'd love to see what your thoughts were about this episode, some of your questions, or if maybe you listen to our questions and you want to answer those, we can post those up on our Facebook too and see what your thoughts are.
Your emotions, how do you feel?
Tell us how you feel.
How you feel. Yeah. Lay down on your couch, tell us how you feel. So reach out via the Facebook page if you're like what you're listening to, forward it along to friends. If you got like-minded Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead fans in your group, much like we do, forward it along, have them give a listen, let us know, give us some feedback. If you've got some specific questions you want to send directly to us, you can always email us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And we hope to hear from you soon.
So I would like to dedicate this episode to my mom. She actually just passed away. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks. I tried to get my mom into The Walking Dead for years. I mean, like I said before, I've been watching the Walking Dead since day one, and fell in love with it right away. And I'm telling my mom, you need to watch this show. You just need to watch it. She's like, no, I don't like zombies. It's scary. I don't want to watch it. And I kept trying to tell her, it's less about the zombies and more about what people do in these circumstances, an apocalypse and things like that. And my husband and I moved in with my parents a little while ago while we were buying a house, and it was between the A and B season of season 5, I believe, and they were doing the catch up, doing 1 through A of season 5, and I had it on, and my mom just starts watching it, and I got her so hooked. She was so addicted to this show, and it got to the point that watching season 5B and then most of 6, she would text me in the middle of episodes. Oh my God, did you see that? Oh my God, she just fell in love with it. And Dianna and I decided to do this podcast just actually a couple of weeks before my mom passed away, and I was really excited to tell her about it, and I did not get the chance to. So I wanted to dedicate this to her. I think that she would have loved it. Yeah, hopefully wherever she is now, she's watching us record this right now and just being proud.